Sorry about that. I realized I had a topic that I hadn't discussed, so I just wanted to pop back on and go through one more topic before getting into the discussion. Um, okay, the kind of last topic was measuring success. So how to tell if things are progressing? How do we know if things are actually moving forward? Um, let me talk about the digital sales process right now, and then we'll get into how that equates to like the physical sales process. And you'll actually see this in the assignment next week, where we're talking about sales funnels. So I'm not going to talk about sales funnels too much right now. I just want to give a broad view of how to think about what does success look like? How do we think about the steps of success? And then that's what the discussion topic will be around. And then we'll talk about the sales funnel in more details next semester or next week. So when we think about a digital sales channel, let's talk about digital sales channel, or how like digital based sales work. So if you think about how this process works, oftentimes the first interaction you may have with a new brand might be via an email. Like you may get just a cold email that cold outreaches to you, saying, hey, here's a new product or service that you might be interested in, right? And a certain percentage of people that receive that are going to click on that link and go to that website and visit it. And basically when we look at that one action, like essentially if I send an email and a certain number of people click through to visit a website, and then on that website there's an action of like, hey, there's a button that says, get our PDF on, some case study or whatever. Put your email in here or whatever, click the button to get the PDF, and cool. I get that PDF, and then a certain number of people that get that PDF, there's a call to action on that PDF that says schedule a call, and a certain number of people that get that PDF are going to schedule the call. And then a certain number of people that schedule the call, like I'm actually going to turn into customers. So the math that we end up creating is, if I know that there's a percentage of email, if I send out X number of emails, a percentage of those roll into get the PDF, and a percentage of those book a call, and a percentage of those become a customer, we basically can produce math that says one customer equates to X number of emails that I send out. And I know all the costs of all these actions. So I know, if I can send out 10,000 emails a month and it costs me $100 a month, I know that, I need to send X number of emails out or whatever. I can basically calculate the amount of dollars per email or per 1,000 emails, and basically come up with some math that says, hey, it cost me $10,000 to raise a customer, to land a customer. So if I'm not going to generate that much of revenue from a customer, like this sales channel doesn't make sense, or it does make sense. So, in a digital sales funnel, those are real discrete actions. We can really analyze those very specifically and saying, hey, I sent an email and this number of people opened that email. All right. It's very discrete. Now, what we actually can't say is whether or not opening that email led to somebody becoming a customer. Like you just, I know the digital sales channel like projects that like it's that obvious and that definitive. It's not in reality, but let's just assume it is. Basically what if we know kind of like, if we know all these costs and we know kind of the chance of success, basically, like, we know we can analyze, like, okay, we think, our average customer is going to be $2,000 purchase, and so we need our email open rate to be this. Therefore, if we send an email and it's the percentage of open rate is above that quantity, we've had success. Or if the percentage of opening is below that rate, it's been a failure. And there's a very discrete, like, did we have a success or did we have a failure? And then, if we had a success, let's try something different. And if that something different was better than the last time, like, oh, do more of that and do less of the other. And we kind of do this incremental, improvement process where we're kind of tweaking our numbers, such that our digital sales supply chain, gradually improves. That's awesome, by the way. Like, man, what an awesome feeling when all I have to do is focus on, like, oh, did I do it better than I did last time? And I already have a business humming, and it's profitable, and I'm not there's no fear of if I fail this one time, my business closes. I think for small businesses, like, that is not reality. Basically, it is fear of failure at all times. And if you are not unsuccessful on any single campaign, like, the world's gonna cave in around you. At least that's how it feels for me. So, we want to take that actually mentality, and that iterative process is fantastic. It really does allow you to improve on things. But in kind of the small business world, and especially the non-digital world, or a world where it's not only digital, coming up with those metrics or those experiments that we're testing is really difficult. Really difficult. And we don't necessarily have, like, infinite amounts of data to tell us whether something is truly working or truly isn't. If you're Google and you have millions of people clicking on things, like, you can get a pretty good signal on, did something improve or not. If you're a small business and you're talking to 10 10 prospects a week, man, your signal's not very strong. Like, it's just not. It's not going to be. So we want to think about how do we pull information out of these, small number of interactions, such that we're, directionally leading ourselves to something that's going to be, good and sustainable. Okay. So what do those things look like? So this is going to be the assignment for this week. And I want to think about, like, how do we tell if things are progressing? What are the things we look for in a relationship, in a customer interaction, in a sales process, that give us positive interaction that we're working towards close? Okay. I want to focus on the process in between prospecting and closing, and how to determine whether or not we're actually spending our time in a manner with a customer that's going to lead to a potential new customer. So there's clear work in prospecting. Getting new potential customers in the door is its own thing. It's its own process. But I'm going to put that on marketing. And what I'm going to say is that's marketing's job. We've got new customers, let's make an assumption that we've got new potential customers coming in the door that are interested in our product. How do we work them to close? What is the process of building rapport, effectively communicating, being authentic? How do we kind of align all these things and then produce some sort of data that's saying, hey, what I'm doing is working or isn't working? So what I want to do is, let's discuss what those types of things look like for a minute, and then we'll talk about what the assignment is. Okay, so I've got new customers coming in the door, and let's say kind of the handoff in my sales channel is they're going to book a meeting. That's going to be the first time I'm going to come talk to a customer is they've booked a meeting to discuss, my product or service. And my goal as a salesperson is actually, it's not to close. I know that I need to build rapport. I know that the likelihood of me closing a sale in that first meeting is slim to none, right? Just not going to happen. If it does happen, man, it's a high flyer. But my assumption is like it's not going to close. It's going to take at least, let's say it's going to take at least 3 meetings, I assume, something like that. So the data that I can produce is actually, so if I know it's going to take 3 meetings, okay, I'm going to focus on meeting 2. So I have meeting 1 and I need to get meeting 2 scheduled. Well, I've got a couple pieces of data I can pull from just knowing that I'm going to have a meeting 2. So 1, was I able to schedule meeting 2? I guess I could have like, did meeting 1 go okay? How did I feel? Did it feel like it went okay? That's like fine, but it's not great. That's kind of like, it's not like objective data. It's subjective data, but whatever, you could have that type of data point. I could have a data point that says, did I get the meeting scheduled? Did I get the person to commit to coming to the meeting? So I want to, while I'm on that meeting, I want to schedule. That's going to be the best way of me doing that. Did I get the meeting scheduled? So there's one piece of data. Did I get meeting 2 scheduled while I was on the call for meeting 1? And I've got a certain percentage rate. Then if I didn't get it scheduled, in the call, was I able to schedule it after the call? They had to check on their calendar or something, and I'm going to have some certain percentage of that of effectiveness. Then I'm going to have, did they show up for the meeting? Did they show up for meeting 2? So there's going to be some certain attrition rate from scheduling to actually showing up, right? And then I've assigned them homework for that meeting. So then the next piece of data would be like, did they show up prepared? And I'll have a certain, amount of information on that. And so I've got that for meeting 1, and then I'd have a similar set of parameters for meeting 3, or I'm sorry, I've got that for meeting 1 to 2, and then I'm going to have a similar set of data acquisition for meeting 2 to meeting 3. And those are the pieces of data that I would collect. And as long as I've gotten a certain number of people coming in, let's say I've got 10 people coming in, I can figure out like, hey, what was the process did it matter that people showed up prepared? Or like, if I end up getting customers at the end, did it matter that people showed up prepared or not prepared? Was the preparedness, was that an indicator of success or not? If I was able to close them on the call versus after the call, did that matter in the life cycle of a customer, to getting a customer popping out the end of my funnel or not? So, my sales process, I talked about meetings. Your sales process might not be meetings. It might be something else. You may have, maybe you have maybe you're a workout gym. And, maybe instead of meetings, you're like workout trials, right? So maybe that's your measure. Your first workout's free, or your first 2 workouts are free. And, how do you think about like, okay, if the customer does this, that's a positive indicator. If they do this other thing, that's a more positive indicator. This is the first interaction, this is the second interaction, and this is the third interaction. Okay. So, I guess I'll re-record this, but so the homework, the discussion that I want to have, so the discussion topic that you're going to be assigned to talk about is 1, let's assume you have, I'm going to say a 3-step process to getting to close. So you close at the end of your 3rd step. Now, if you want to have a 4-step process or a 5-step process, that's fine, but My 3-step process was meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3. Okay. Your 3-step process may be free lesson 1, free lesson 2, free lesson 3. Maybe for the discussion topic, let's just talk about kind of 2. Maybe I'm getting too difficult here. So let's assume a 2-step process where, you know, my first interaction with the customer is this, and my second interaction with the customer is this. And these are the pieces of data that I'm going to look at between interaction 1 and interaction 2. And how am I going to determine, you know, there's going to be an attrition rate, meaning 100% of the people that I talk to in interaction 1 I'm not going to have an interaction 2. So it's not going to be 100%. So how do I gauge the jump over? How do I gauge the number of people that end up in an interaction 2? How do I gauge whether or not my interaction 1 was effective? So we want to come up with 3 parameters that are going to indicate whether or not interaction 1 was effective to get to interaction 2. So the assignment's going to be is, what is interaction 1, what is interaction 2, and what are the 3 pieces of information, the 3 pieces of data that you can pull out to determine if your interaction was effective. Again, for my example of, I have a first meeting, I have a second meeting. That second meeting is like a review meeting. To again push them forward down my sales channel. These things don't need to be, I'm not talking about super granular here, so you don't need to have a ton of detail. But again, my interactions would be, did they book the meeting? Did I book meeting interaction 2 during meeting 1? Was I able to book it after meeting 1? Did they show up for meeting 2? And did they show up prepared? So those would be the 4 data points for me. I'm asking you to do 3. Those are my 4 data points for my meeting 1 and meeting 2. Those are my 2 interactions and engagements. Meeting 1, again, is an introductory. Meeting 2 is a review process of the homework that I've given them in meeting 1. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm open for office hours again this week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.